Hello and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are your hosts, Chris and Philly, co-founders of a multi-award-winning functional medicine practice, serving busy people with energy, mood and gut issues.
While busyness, addictive doing, people-pleasing and perfectionism might be the norm, it's not normal, and it's a major contributor to health issues.
Our goal with this show is to give you a holistic root cause approach to healing your body so that you don't have to continue doctor or diet hopping or popping a gazillion supplements hoping something might stick.
So get ready to heal your body, get your spark back, deeply connect with yourself and step into the life of your dreams.
Let's dive in.
Hello, podcast people. How are you? It's Philly here on the Ending Body Burnout Show. Chris and I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing Nadine Champion today. She is a motivational TedX speaker and mindset coach. She was an absolute joy to interview. I both laughed, she's very funny, and also cried because she speaks from the heart. And during the interview, she honestly and openly shared the life lessons that she's learned from her past as a martial artist and how she courageously fought cancer and how changing her thinking and busy patterns has led to an even more beautiful, richer and happier life, even with lingering post-cancer fatigue. So for those who are really struggling with chronic health issues, I know that you're really going to get so much out of this podcast and ways forward to navigate both your healing but also your current and present state of the symptoms you're experiencing and how you can actually move forward with not toxic positivity but in a way that's actually going to not only help you heal but also to find joy and pleasure and lessons along the way rather than being stuck in a pit of hopelessness. So Nadine's official bio, she is an inspiring international keynote speaker, author and awarded martial artist with over 30 years experience. She has successfully fought and won many battles in her life, from title fights in the ring to overcoming cancer. An acclaimed motivational speaker, her 10 Seconds of Courage TEDx Sydney talk is regarded as one of the most memorable of all time. She got a standing ovation and I've watched this many times. Okay, many times. 2 times. I've watched the TEDx 2 times and both times I cry at the end. It's beautiful. Nadine is a respected teacher known for creating a high-performance mindset in people from all walks of life. Her passion is to challenge individuals and organizations to change their thinking to reach their highest potential. Armed with a zest for life born of authentic lived experience, Nadine uses her own inspirational story to ignite resilience and courage in others. Her dream is to build a community of people using 10 seconds of courage to reach their highest potential. All right, let's dive in.
G'day guys and welcome to the Ending Body Burnout Show. We are so excited to bring you this episode. We have a very special guest, Nadine Champion. Thank you so much, Nadine, for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Yay, we're so excited to have you on here. I came across you 2021, watched your TEDx talk and it was phenomenal and goosebumpy and I cried at the end, and I also watched it last night again as a refresher, getting into the energy of today's interview, and cried again.
It's what I do. I make people cry. You're welcome.
I make people cry.
Hopefully I won't make anyone cry today. Thanks for watching.
So you have a really interesting story in so many ways. Let's go back to when you were a little kid, just so that people can get to know you, your background, what you're passionate about, what you do. You are very big in the martial arts sphere. Why did you get into that?
I'm sure there's a few of your listeners have just gone, what on earth does this have to do with me, this martial arts lady? But, you know, the way that I look at martial arts is we're all fighting battles. We're all fighting for something in life, and hopefully that something is ourselves and our loved ones. Some of us are fighting for our health, all of these things. So martial arts is like a vehicle that I use to discuss what happens for us as humans, using, a sporting, colorful kind of a context. But, hopefully today there'll be something for everyone, because we're all little humans inside, with all our thoughts and feelings and contradictions. So I used martial arts as a vehicle for learning. So it was like uni, like physical uni for me. But I got into martial arts almost by accident, because my older brother was getting bullied at school. So my parents thought, let's take him to a martial arts class and, see if he likes it, build some confidence, self-defense, that kind of thing. It wasn't really for him, but I saw it and I fell in love. To me, people sort of scratch their heads and think, you must have been a violent little kid to want to get into that. And I'm like, no, no, no. The last thing I was interested in then or now is getting into physical confrontations with people. It wasn't the martial part that interested me. To me, it was the art form. It was graceful and beautiful and dynamic, and it just was a perfect fit in my world. So I fell in love with it when I was a little kid.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I heard too, did your mum say little girls can do anything? And you're
Girls
like,
can do
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going to
exactly. There
do
was a
that.
sticker that was in my bedroom when I was little, and it's part of our belief system.
Yeah.
It's part of what we believe, and it's amazing how having simple messages when we're little, it goes in. And we've got a little guy, he's 13 right now, early days of high school, and he's got a sign in his bedroom right now that says attitude is everything.
Yeah.
It's the approach you take. So in martial arts, we call that internal training. So the external is the physical martial arts bit. The internal training is all of the mindset, all of the attitude adjustments, and the heart that we put into what we do.
Mm. Thinking when you said that, like the belief system. So in our practice and what we do with a lot of our clients and a lot of the conversations Chris and I have on the podcast too is around the deepest root cause of body burnout actually comes back to the beliefs that you have about yourself that sets up your thinking, your emotions, your behavioral patterns. So that's really interesting. I'm curious what you discovered about yourself when you
Oh,
yeah, and like the thinking and the mindset side of things, because from what I know of your journey or like going into martial arts, it was kind of like a discovery for self. Yeah.
it's been a wild ride. I've been on this ride for about 38 years, learning about myself through this avenue and learning about other people. So I've been teaching martial arts for decades as well. You learn so much, as you would know, by being in other people's corner. You learn so much about, as you said, the beliefs they hold, the way they think, the way they feel, and how that influences our action or inaction, and the impact that then has on us physically. So I'm sure we'll go into, some of the more, maybe the darker parts of the journey, but we all have so much experience in life. And for me, martial arts was a way of gaining more experience. And I was very, very lucky to have a great teacher who's been guiding me on that journey all this time, and helping me learn about me, helping me learn about teaching other people, and, nudging me, giving me those little nudges. It's the difference between having a friend and a mentor, not just someone who's the cheer squad to go, great job, but someone to go, great job, but what about this part?
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful to have had that person in my corner, and, I'm honored to be able to be that person for other people.
Poking the wounds and seeing the blind spots.
Yeah, we all have things to work on, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So along your journey, and maybe if we talk about the martial arts as like the metaphor as well, what were some key life insights, messages, learnings that you discovered along the way, especially around facing hard things?
As you might expect, there are a number of challenging things that come up in martial arts land, just like in life. So it's such a mirror image in so many ways. You know, one day everything's great. You're golden. Everything's working out perfectly. The next day, you can't even get started. You woke up, you don't feel good, whether it's physically or mentally, emotionally, or all of the above. You know, it's such a mirror. And going through that process in martial arts, it wasn't just do these moves physically and then go home. The style of martial arts that I do, my sensei's name's Benny the Jet Yukitas. He's a famous martial arts guy, but to me, he's Sensei Benny. That just means honorable teacher. He's basically like my second dad. And he's taken me on this journey through, you know, self-discovery that I then went to uni. I'm a social scientist by education, specializing in criminology. I'm watching you guys. But you know, I'm fascinated by people. So I was learning so deeply from the wisest person I've ever met. And then I was backing it up with academic research and going into, you know, the journey that we have within ourselves. And martial arts is a great way to use it, as you said, metaphorically, to talk about who your real opponent is. You know, who are we really fighting against? And it's so easy to externalize and blame and talk about what's hard in the world and what this person, why did you make it challenging for me? You know, all of those things, when so often it's our own thought process that creates so many obstacles, so many challenges for us. I'm speaking for myself, very much for myself, you know. I see you nodding, you're with me.
Yep.
But yeah, many people will understand what we're talking about right now. You know, I went and did the research. I was so interested in how many thoughts we have per day, thousands and thousands of them, the speed that we think, thousands of words per minute, way faster than we could ever speak, because we have a negative bias and a confirmation bias. The fact that our brains are skewed towards the negative in repetition, that can be a never-ending loop. It can become such a habit for us, but that we also have the power to change it. That was great news. When I found that out, you know, when Sensei Benny said to me, you can change your thinking, I literally burst into tears like a little kid and pulled on his t-shirt. And I was like, do you promise? I was only 22 years old, but at the time I was like, wow, really? No one had ever explained that to me in a tangible way before. That you can change the way you think, which means you change the way you feel, which means you change the way you behave.
Yeah.
You know, that was a revelation to me. So I went on a deep dive with it. So knowing that my greatest opponent was often myself. Yeah, again, using that metaphor, you know, in order to climb in the metaphorical ring in life and fight for what we believe in, we have to have the courage to actually walk out there. And so often, you know, that happens not in the ring in life, but in the dressing room. When it's just us and our hopes and dreams are out there intact, but we're standing there full of doubt and fear. And we know the second we walk out of the dressing room, no one's going to see that doubt and fear anymore. And this is the mistake that people so often make, which is why, you know, I make my living as a professional speaker. What I love to do is walk out on the stage and take my armor off. Because if you saw a picture of me winning a title, you would never know the level of fear, doubt, you know, hesitation that we all have. So what I like to do is take my armor off and say, this is how it feels right before you walk out there. That we get in our own way, that we hold ourselves back, that we so often interpret the challenges we face mentally and emotionally as weakness in our own character, as something that we experience that others don't experience. So we beat ourselves up with things so often. So one of the biggest lessons I learned from training, especially getting through hard things in life, was I had to learn to A, change my thinking, B, not beat myself up so much. And instead of doing that, I had to learn to be in my own corner and show myself the respect I truly deserved instead of what I was programmed to do in life.
Can
Love
I
it.
dig into that a little bit? Like, I'm curious at that 22-year-old you, where it's just like, oh my gosh, really? I can change my thinking, and you burst out crying. Like, what were you struggling with then? Was it the fear around going into a competition, or was it kind of like were there deeper, darker stuff happening, if you don't mind sharing?
Of course, competing was easy because it wasn't life.
Mm,
It was a part of my sport,
mm,
but I had a little bumpy ride growing up. I don't know about you guys, but my life wasn't easy. So, I'd learned some difficult lessons along the way already. And, Sensei Benny calls it the woundology. We all have a little bag of wounds that we carry with us. For some people, they're tiny paper cuts. Someone laughed at their sneakers in primary school and they were embarrassed that day, and that becomes a wound. Not to minimize, because that can be really painful. None of us like to experience rejection or isolation, but there are some things that we would consider small, other people wouldn't, but everyone has their own unique experience. So we all have a little bag of wounds that we carry with us and accumulate through life. If we don't heal them, they stay.
mm-hmm.
So I had a woundology. Everybody has one, different size, different shape, different color, but we all have it. Life is full contact.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have full contact experiences earlier than others. But I'm sure you've heard that song, "No One Gets Out of Here Alive." It's life is intense, and my little life was intense. So I had a lot going on for me mentally and emotionally. I had a lot of work and healing that I had started doing that I'm still doing. As many people are. So yeah, it's just a part of recognizing, that my head wasn't the easiest place to be. And I thought it was just me. So doing the internal work with Sensei Benny and then learning and growing, as you can see, I love to read. 98% of what I read is nonfiction. I love hearing people's stories. I love learning about what we're like mentally, emotionally, and discovering more tools that I can use and share with other people.
So cool. So cancer came along. How many years ago was that?
Oh, that was 2013. If you're into lucky or unlucky
Okay.
numbers, it's very easy to remember. 2013, surprise, I got Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. So let's go there. It was like, I've got so many questions around that. First of all, because this is a health podcast as well, I'm curious, were there any signs, or was it just a complete shock when you went to the doctor and it's just like, you have cancer?
Yeah, not my favorite day, I've got to admit. It was difficult timing because I'm sure this will be interesting for you guys because of the belief system around it. I had a lot going on right before I was diagnosed. I was in a very stressful phase of life. One of the main things that was happening was my oldest brother was passing away from lung cancer.
Oh, wow.
So the 6 months before my diagnosis, he was terminal. So he was stage 4 with lung cancer, didn't even smoke, crazy thing.
Yeah.
But when he was diagnosed, he was given a terminal diagnosis at the same time. So there was no lead up for him and there was no possibility of recovery for him. So I went through a deeply stressful period, which is part of why, I'm qualified to write about fear and courage. I have a lot of experience with both. It can be very difficult showing up for someone, when they're going through their illness. And in that time, I knew I was stressed, but I wasn't sick. So just after he was unwell, I put a backpack on my shoulder, right after he'd passed away, a few days after he passed away, and I felt a tiny little half a marble lump behind my collarbone. And that was the only sign. So I was a little bit lean. Now I'd look back at pictures and go, I was a little skinny. But I was in a peak training phase, so I was meant to be quite lean, but it was a little skinny, but I thought it was stress because he just passed away. So now I can see I might have been skinny because of what was happening with me. I was stage 2 already. So I had a tiny lump at my collarbone that was attached to a big cluster of tumors in my chest that you couldn't see. So I'm very grateful to him because as much as, I would have felt that lump at another time. When I went to the doctor, I'm a big fan of having a good GP that you've known for a long time. I went to the doctor and I was like, well, this lump wasn't there. There's a strike we do in martial arts. that goes right where that lump was. So I knew for a fact it wasn't there before.
Mm.
Thanks, martial arts, you know? So I'd said to her, and she's, look, it's probably an infection. Could just be a lymph node. And I was like, I knew. I had that feeling as soon as I found that lump because of what had just happened with my brother. I knew,
Yeah.
but I started to talk myself out of it.
Mm.
Again, who's your greatest opponent?
Mm.
I started going, can't be. He had cancer, I had cancer at the same time. Can't be. What are the chances? That can't be it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had a gut feeling, and I'm a big fan also of listening to your gut.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather listen to my gut and be wrong 9 out of 10 times, but having had backed myself instead of ignoring my gut, not listening to that quiet voice of wisdom, which is why I've studied so much about our thinking, because our thinking is so fast, so frequent, so loud. It's like a loudspeaker up there under pressure, and it's not positive so much of the time, not because we have character flaws, because we're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing that voice in my head, but we also have that quiet voice of wisdom, that gut feeling, intuitive voice that I knew I was sick, even though I wasn't sick yet. So as soon as I started going through the diagnosis process, which took a couple of weeks, I started to get what they call B symptoms. So things like a little rash on my tummy and night sweats, having to have a sleep in the afternoon, which I'm not the kind of afternoon napping kind of person. Not there's anything wrong with that. I wish I was. But yeah, just things started to change very quickly as soon as I found that lump. So it was a wild one.
So then you went through chemo and all the bits and pieces to get rid of the cancer. And I would imagine that would have been really hard.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't that good. My uncle's going through it right now, and I'm there.
Yeah,
I'm like,
right.
I hear you, my brother. I'm like, that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun, It's a challenging thing. I had to have 4 months of chemo every 2 weeks, and they give you a month off to recover. Then I had to have 30 days of radiation.
Yeah.
So pretty intense. Coming out of it, it gave me chronic fatigue or post-cancer fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been 11 years. I've still got that. And the way that I choose to approach it, it's unusual. The oncologists are a bit confused by it. They're like, we don't know why that's happening.
Like
The way
the
that I
fatigue
choose.
or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's meant to go away. And in my case, it didn't go away.
Right.
From my research, there's a correlation with lymphoma and long-term fatigue. But like, the poster in my little guy's room right now, attitude is everything. The way that I choose to look at it, my belief system around it, being tired is better than being dead to me. So if I have to choose, it stops me feeling sorry for myself. Let's put it that way. It's very frustrating. I want to be able to do what I used to do. I want to be able to, why am I so tired? That was a battle the first few years. Why would this go away? But I choose to look at it as, if this is the price I pay it willingly.
So, like, for people listening, they're probably experiencing symptoms, maybe not necessarily cancer, but definitely those chronic health issues, exhaustion, anxiety, depression, gut issues, headaches, migraines. And it can feel like this never ending battle when you are living with that. You probably already answered this. Like, this is what got you through it, was your change in thinking. What could be some really practical advice or some inquiry questions that someone could start asking themselves?
Well, I'll give you the belief system and then the practical, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The belief system. I'm a big fan of mantras, and consciously choosing what you tell yourself, choosing a powerful message and using it in repetition to turn your belief system in a chosen direction, rather than knowing that 73% of our thinking is skewed to the negative. It's designed to keep us alive and safe and all those good things. But, it's like, I don't know about you guys, but did you get up this morning and be like, you're so amazing and good looking and smart? Yay!
No.
No?
Did I? No, I was just like, yay, sleeping. Woohoo!
Yeah. But we don't, like, if our brains aren't getting us up and going, ta-da, What are they doing? Probably something else. It's just how we're skewed as humans, you know, so, but we can choose to tell ourselves different message. So coming out of my treatment, my life was and is different. My brain would love me to focus on everything that's been taken from me, all of the health and strength and six-pack that I've lost and all those things. You know, that's how we operate. I don't want to live like that, mentally, emotionally. Doesn't mean I haven't cried about it. It's healthy. It takes more courage to cry about it than to push it down.
Yeah.
But, you know, I choose to tell myself very specific messages. Rather than focusing on what I haven't got, I focus on gratitude for what I do. Rather than focusing on what's been taken, I tell myself really clear things. So one of the messages I give myself about what I've been through and what I have to go through now is that now I'm wide awake. I know we're not here forever. I know the health and the vitality and the opportunity and the connections and being with you guys right now will be over after a certain amount of time. So I don't want to pretend like, I don't want to go back to sleep. Pretend like, you know, I've got clean water sitting in front of me in a glass. That's awesome. So many people don't have that opportunity today. So looking for the good. So I tell myself I'm wide awake, you know, and that there's no time to waste. Say yes to opportunity. Say yes to, you know, what you need. So the practical part of my answer is I had to learn to rest. Now, for some people, that will sound really easy and obvious. For me, I didn't know how.
Most of the listeners are probably like that too.
My people, I'm high-fiving you.
Hello.
Yeah, which, you know, I've had a little burnout in life. I think that, you know, there's definitely folks like me who are a little driven, who were getting their self-worth from achievement, who, you know, it's a complicated, deeply rooted thing that we do to ourselves. But, you know, I had to learn to slow down. I had to learn, as I said before, to show myself the respect I deserved rather than treating myself in a way that I was programmed to by life. I had to learn to slow my roll, be gentle with myself the way I was with other people. I had to learn that sleep is awesome instead of inconvenient, you know.
Getting me in the way of my to-do list.
I had to learn to go for a walk. I know that might sound a little bit weird, but my training had always been high intensity, you know, and endurance, and about a lot of it was experiencing suffering in a productive way. So I so associated pushing my body and exercise with achievement. And instead I had to flip it around and learn the opposite side of it, which was around nurturing and comfort and being gentle. It was a novel concept to me.
There's so much that you're saying that I'm like, I see me in your story. I definitely was, well, this is prior to kids, but also before my body kind of like did weird things and had my burnout episodes. But definitely I was like the fit girl. I'm like, I'm someone who can do like 20 pull-ups without even training.
20 pull-ups?
I don't know. It was at least 10.
That's quite impressive.
No, it was at least 10. Remember at the playground? The playground.
Yeah.
And you and your friend were like doing pull-ups, and I'm like, I've never done a pull-up. But, you know, like in a six-pack and all sorts of stuff, but then also those busy patterns of high overachieving, overdoing, getting the worth externally. And that was probably my biggest learning was and that is what I needed in order for my body to heal. And I see this with lots of our clients too, is that surrendering. It's like, hey, what are you actually trying to tell me, body? And if I listen, things are going to be better on the other side.
Listening to our body instead of yelling at it and demanding things from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, like in in the way that you've been talking with martial arts and the fighting, I kind of have a slightly different saying with the body, is that the body isn't fighting against you, it's fighting for you. Actually, it's very in line with what you're saying. We're always fighting for something that's important for either ourselves or for our loved ones. And our body's never fighting against us. It's always fighting for our best interest.
I agree. In this busy world where, you know, so many people are working and they've got kids and they're doing all of these things, like, and trying to keep up with their LinkedIn profile, and then they're this, and they've got to go to the shops, and, you know, we demand so much of ourselves that, you know, especially I live in Sydney, it's fast paced. You know, I was in an airport yesterday. That's a wild ride. Like, there's a lot happening. People are stressed in life.
Yeah.
You know, to actually slow it all down a little bit takes a lot of courage. Took me years to learn. And it goes against my nature.
I was just about to say something like that. Nature, identity. It sounds like you
and the gut instinct.
You were the type of person, type of girl who did the thing, right? You got in the ring, you did the stuff, you punched the people, you got punched by the people. You know,
occasionally.
Don't
recommend it.
Yeah. Yep. and that became, I'm imagining that became an identity for you, right? And then all of a sudden it's just you can't do the things. And you are the person who does the things.
That wasn't fun.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? That identity loss, or you know, we're just not sure of who we are anymore. Would you be able to speak a little bit to that process that you went through and where you came out the other end of that?
Yeah, it was really insightful. Chris, high five to you. You know, it's really hard when all of the things that make you feel like they've been taken from you, which led me to questioning, well, who am I if I'm not those things? Who am I if I can't do those things? And the year after my treatment was harder than the treatment. And I found out later that's really common. You know, when you ring the bell to end the treatment, I started crying. I didn't stop crying for a while. I hadn't been crying that much during the treatment because you're in survival mode. So coming out of it, I found out it's really common people fall apart afterwards. Because when you're actively doing something about what's going on, you feel powerful, like you can have an impact, like you're doing something. Even if it's what they're making you do, you're still doing something. You're actively engaged in the process. Once you come out of that, I think of it like, you know, whitewater rapids, and you get spat out into like a placid lake. And all of a sudden you're left with what? For me, I couldn't exercise, so nowhere near the same way. And I remember talking to Sensei Benny and saying, if I can't do it the way I used to do it, I don't want to do it. You know, I was having a little tanty, like, you know, I was like, I don't want to do it if I can't, because I kept butting up against trying to make myself do what I used to do, the way I used to do it. And I would lose that battle. And I was used to being able to force myself into, make my body do what I wanted it to do. And then all of a sudden I was losing that battle. And it rocked me. Like you said, it rocked my identity, my sense of self, my positioning in the world. Where to from here? And I was pretty devastated at the time, if I'm honest. Like, I really didn't know, how am I going to rebuild my life? Who am I going to be now? What am I going to do for a living? Because I had quite a physical job. I was teaching other people, you know, so I was struggling with it, but I was still trying to make myself work the hours I was working before. Found out I couldn't. I was still trying to do the training I did before. Found out I couldn't. I believe if you don't like it, you have to change it.
Like it. That's good.
If you don't like it, change it. If you don't change it, you're stuck there. I don't mean change it as in make it go back how it was, because that was beyond my ability. I mean, you must change something. something mentally, something emotionally, or something that you're physically doing. So for me, it wasn't let's change it and go back to who we used to be. It was change what I'm doing. So Sensei Benny was like, do 5 minutes and be grateful you can do 5 minutes. Go for a walk. I was like, walk is an exercise. He's like, yes, it is. I was like, oh, apparently it is. Got it. You know, I had to relearn how to be someone different. So if you don't like it, change it. And that was what ended up, you know, 1 year after I finished treatment was what found me on stage at the Sydney Opera House doing a TEDx talk when I had zero public speaking experience.
Oh, wow.
They made me the closing speaker for TEDx Sydney, 2,500 people, live streamed to thousands more. I had, my hair was still growing back from the chemo. It was that recent, you know. So the last thing I wanted was a bunch of people staring at me physically because I wasn't comfortable with what I was seeing in the mirror yet. And, you know, I had short-term memory loss from the chemo still and no cue cards. And the reason that I went out on that stage wasn't because I was trying to create a new career for myself or I thought I had a great message to share. It wasn't that at all. It was that one of my students had said to me, would you ever think about doing a talk? The things that you talk to us about in training, the mindset piece of it, the emotional piece of it, the tools that you give us, would you ever think about sharing that with people publicly? And I didn't think anyone would be interested if they weren't martial artists. She had a very interesting corporate career, you know, Jess Miller. She became the Deputy Lord Mayor of Sydney at 33. 10 seconds of courage does work very well, you know, having the courage to try things. You know, she could see that other people would understand the concepts that we worked on in martial arts, that they would apply to other people's lives. So she made this suggestion, asked, would I be interested? I decided that I needed to change something. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew if I didn't say yes to things, nothing would change. I would continue feeling like everything had been taken.
Yeah.
So I just was like, yeah, maybe if you think they'd be interested. Next thing you know, Dr. Charlie Teo, the neurosurgeon, spoke before me, like all these people that were like proper grown-ups and had done talks before. And I just trotted out there and just shared from the heart. You know, I took my armor off, you know, I'm this thing. I changed it. I didn't go out there as the person I used to present to the world as. I went out there as my most genuine, on the couch watching Netflix in my trackies self and shared from the heart. And that's what changed my life.
Yeah.
It's the reason I'm chatting to you two today.
Super cool.
So cool. So the title of that TEDx talk, I think, as well as the title of your book is 10 Seconds of Courage.
Yep.
What does that actually mean? Because like intellectually, I'm like, oh yeah, just like stay still for 10 minutes and like do the thing. I'm pretty sure there's something underneath that, or is it that simple?
You know, I recently was thinking about, you know, a radio interview that I did when the book first came out. And this interviewer, I went and saw Grace Tame speak the other night, and she was talking about how the media is not always on your side. And it just got me thinking about this interviewer when I went on the radio that said, oh, so all it takes is 10 seconds of courage and everything's great. And I was like, if only life worked that way. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not just 10 seconds of courage and then there's magic that happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like that. 10 seconds of courage, very easy to understand intellectually, not always so easy to live. How do we know? We've all missed opportunities. We've all kicked ourselves afterwards and said, why didn't I just say the thing? Why didn't I just say, I'll do it? Or why didn't I? Oh, we know that feeling. So the way I explain it, 10 seconds of courage is the difference between starting and not starting. It's the difference between staying stuck and just giving it a whirl. Why is it so important? Because so often it's actually us holding ourselves back. It's us stuck in the muck of, I don't like it here, but I don't feel like I can change it. And going on that emotional loop rather than, what if I just tried one little thing for 10 seconds? You can do anything for 10 seconds. You know, it can be as simple as, I'm going to send that text to a friend. I'm going to say sorry to my partner. I'm going to ask for what I truly want and need. I'm going to decline that meeting this afternoon because I'm really tired.
Mm.
I'm going to not eat what I want to eat today, but instead eat what is best for me to eat. I'm going to make positive, good choices. I'm going to do a little something with really good intentions, either for myself or someone else. It stops us getting stuck in places that aren't serving us.
Mhm.
So it's just having a little burst of courage. I like that it's only 10 seconds
Mm.
because I'm sure you've heard that saying, you eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't have the capacity to sign up to be brave for the rest of my life. I don't know about you guys.
Mhm.
Mm.
I probably don't have the capacity to be like, I'm going to do everything with full courage today for 24 hours.
It's a big
Put your
commitment.
cape on. But could you be brave just for a second? So
Yeah.
10 seconds is long enough to say a sentence,
Hmm.
send a text, start a conversation, literally walk in the door and do something for the first time. Like you want to do that gym class, but you've always been too nervous. Just walk in and stand there. Because if you never walk in the door, you'll never get in the room. So the way I explain it is, if you don't walk out of the dressing room, you will lose every single match that's in that metaphorical ring for you. Like, we have to have the courage just to walk out of our comfort zone and give ourselves the chance to experience something different.
Mm.
Boom.
So it's that thing. I've been stuck in places for far longer than I'd care to admit publicly. We all get stuck at times. It's part of
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
human. It's just great to have this little tool in your back pocket
Mm.
that you can pull out and go, I visualize like throwing a card down as if you were winning a poker competition or something.
Hmm.
Not that I've ever played poker publicly, but it's that idea of like, I'm just going to do it. And then you just do it.
Mm.
I also call it down the chute. When you're at the top of a water slide, because we've all been
Yeah.
on a water slide
Just going.
recently, but
Yeah.
when you're like, I'm going to go. And there's a certain point where you have to let go of the rails
Mhm.
and you reach that point of like, no return. Like, I'm doing it.
Mm.
It's that key little piece right before you go down the chute where
Mm.
it's so easy to back out. It's so easy to talk yourself out of it.
Mm.
It's the starting piece.
I have two things in my mind right now. One, we've just closed doors to our Ending Body Burnout Method program. At the time of recording, it'll probably be like a month or so since when this goes live. But we had a lot of conversations, and a lot of it is around like self doubt and fear. It's like, oh, not the right. There'll be the I just in like rabbit ears excuses. It's all happening underneath unconsciously. I don't have enough time. Oh, I can't afford that at the moment. Too scary. Ooh, I don't want to look like. Can I just have a band-aid approach? So there's a lot of these things that can block people from even taking that first step to actually reach out for the help to heal and to start the healing journey. So I like that. 10 seconds of courage. It's like, press that button. Ting. Oh my gosh, I'm in.
Yeah. The way I explain it is people's like, what happens if you do nothing?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing. Woo, awesome. Is that really what you want, or is that just the part of you that's programmed to keep you safe operating?
Yeah. I loved what you were talking about earlier. When you found the lump, and it's like my head said one thing, but my gut said the other. So when someone's taking that next step to do the thing, the 10 seconds of courage, like it sounds to me like that's kind of like a gut instinct, do the thing or be the person. Do you find like if someone was to listen to their head or their gut, or it's just like whatever might feel good to help them get to the next step?
I think there are no mistakes. The way that I was taught, there are no mistakes. There's only experience. So sometimes even when things don't work out, or you didn't listen to yourself and you learnt that lesson, or you did something with really good intentions and it blew up in your face, it's only experience in life. And in martial arts, there are black belts out there walking around in the world who've never actually had anyone make physical contact with them. There are some martial arts styles where you barely touch each other. They have a lot of information. They don't have a lot of experience. Not with the deep, dark parts of it. So what happens in a boxing ring? I don't know if either of you have been in a boxing ring, but you can get two big, burly, tough guys in there and they will get frustrated with each other. they'll start to have emotions. They'll start to, it's like a microwave for your emotions in there.
Yeah.
You know, someone punches you in the face, you're going to get upset about it. If not, we're looking at you like, whoa, are you connected? You know, fear, anger, frustration, anxiety are the emotions that come up in the ring under pressure. They mirror the emotions that come up in our families and businesses under pressure, I believe. You know, so there is a certain point where, you know, I have to look at it and go, even if I'm wrong, I will gain experience.
Yep. There's no failure, only feedback.
Yeah, there's a saying that some of you know, Conor McGregor. He's a famous UFC fighter. You know, his coach created a book called Win or Learn. It's actually a Nelson Mandela quote, believe it or not. But yeah, there's this concept of win or learn, which means there are no mistakes, it's only experience. Like, we can't get everything right in life, but we will learn from it. But what people tend to do is beat themselves up from it instead of flipping it and changing their thinking and going, that didn't work out. I know not to do that again. Or that wasn't quite the result I'm looking for. How do I tweak it? What else can I add to it? Rather than letting our brains take us on a ride of, it didn't work out. Why did I even try? I'm so silly. I did it again. You know, all those things that we wish our voice in our head was like, great job, do it next time.
Yeah.
I've got little pom-pom people like visualized in my head that are cheerleaders, but so many of us don't have that person in our heads. And, you know, life's hard enough without beating ourselves up as well.
Yeah. I love that. I had some conversations, I think it was last week, where there was a narrative where it's like, I've tried so many things and nothing's helped. And then it's almost like some people stay stuck or paralyzed in that. But then, like, if you're stuck, it's not a nice place to be. And then, I mean, there's so many beliefs and stories that are collected along the way that it's like, oh, maybe I'm the person that isn't supposed to be well, or maybe I'm actually too broken to be well. But really, it's just stepping up again and trying again. And it might be that the thing that someone's trying to get the result in, like, I'm actually really grateful that you shared this ongoing fatigue thing. Now for someone, you know, they can heal from that, but also, like, what you've taken away from that is that I'm still happy.
And I work hard to be happy. You know, it didn't come at, you know, it wasn't free. We say like nothing comes for free. And I don't mean financially. Like, I work hard on myself. I read constantly. I talk about things. I ask for help. You know, none of those things were easy to learn. You know, I speak to a psychologist. I speak to my sensei. There's all of these things that, you know, we all need good people in our corner, whether that's, I listen to a podcast today. I love a good podcast. Highly recommend yours. So, you know, a podcast, a book, a friend, a professional, something that is energy in for you. I think so much of us, you know, we fight with ourselves, we fight with our bodies, we fight with life. I had to learn to accept. That was such a big part of it, just learning to accept that today, can I change it? No. If I spend the entire day fighting myself and the situation, will I be exhausted and upset by the end of it? And I don't mean lay down and just go, there's nothing I can do. If you can't change the circumstance, what if you're just super kind to yourself today? If you can't change the circumstance, what if you did something nice for someone else to stop you feeling sorry for yourself? You know, like not that I'm an angel, but I was walking through Brisbane on the way, like from finishing my job. I got to go to the airport yesterday and I'm all caught up in my thinking. And I walked past a guy selling the big issue and he was really nicely dressed. And our brains are negative. So my first thought was like, why is he so nicely dressed? Should he actually be selling? And then I caught myself thinking, I was like, what are you thinking? So I turned around and went back and bought his big issue and gave him a tip and, you know, told him he looked really nice in his outfit. And when I spoke to him, I saw why he was selling the big issue. You know, our brains are so judgy of ourselves and everyone around us. It's how they're designed, you know. So I have to change my thinking all day, every day. Not that I'm a bad person, not that I think nasty stuff, but I'm just aware that there's that saying, I'm the thinker of my thoughts.
Mm.
Don't believe everything you read. Like, don't believe everything your head tells you. We have so much ability to change it. If you're in a fight with your own head all day, every day, as well as experiencing physical challenges, that's exhausting on a number of levels.
Yeah.
So acceptance, turning them towards the positive, looking for the good, and not beating ourselves up, not beating other people up, just trying to keep it in a positive way, in a good way. And like I said, it's not free. It does take work, but I think it's the most important work because, if I'm in remission, hopefully I'll live to be 100. But hopefully we all will. But you never know. Like, if this was our last week on earth, month on earth, year on earth, would you want to spend it being mean to yourself? Making the challenges you're already facing harder? Or being on your own team? So in accepting the changes in my life, I then took action and changed a lot about my life.
Yeah.
I had to learn to slow down. I'm going through a slowdown right now. Actively doing that. And I said to my wife this morning, I feel like I'm being naughty. Like, I feel, because my character isn't to slow down. My character is to push. So even all these years into it, when I'm choosing to do something differently to my autopilot, I feel like I'm being naughty. But it's a giggle. It's a ooh, instead of you should be doing that authoritarian we have in our heads so often. So I've changed so much about my life. I wanted to move near the ocean. It's fantastic for recovery. There's studies I'm sure you've heard about with being able to see a tree out of a hospital window instead of a cement wall. You heal so much faster.
Yeah.
People take less medication, all that stuff. So, slowing down, being near nature, I changed so many things about my life and I haven't regretted any of those things.
So good.
Awesome.
Do you have anything?
I really resonate with what you just said there. I think I butchered this in my notepad, your quote. I'll have to listen back to the replay. If this is your last day on earth, are you doing what brings you happiness? Or that's what I wrote down in my book. I'll listen to your exact words later. I really like that. And I think so often I talk to people and they're just stuck in a story that they have to be the way they are. They've got to keep doing things, or they've got their lot has been determined, and they're being punched in the face and they're just standing there taking it. And they don't have to. One, it doesn't have to be a fight. You can move closer to the beach. And if that's not an option for you right now, well, what's your next step? Have the dream, and there's little things you can do to reinvent yourself. And those opportunities are everywhere. And it makes me really fired up when people shut down and think that they can't do it. They're stuck. That just lights me up. I'm so passionate about that. I'm excited to be able to. I have not read your book yet, so I'm excited to have a read and get into it. Yeah.
Talking about the book,
Something
how
I
can
prepared
people
earlier.
find it?
Well, the easiest way is if you go to my website, nadinechampion.com. And if you want to either get a copy for yourself or even be in someone else's corner and order them a copy, you can actually tell me what you'd like me to write, and I'll sign it personally, write them a personalized message and send it off to them.
Awesome.
Cool.
One of the chapters in the book, Chris, is called 1 Year to Live.
Oof.
And I never want to forget that feeling when they were diagnosing me. And there was a certain test I had to do where they locked me in a lead-lined room by myself while I had a radioactive isotope thing going through me. And I didn't have any music. I didn't have anything to distract me. I had to sit in there for an hour.
Yeah, wow.
And that hour was one of the heaviest hours of my life because I hadn't been diagnosed yet. And my brother had just died. So I was thinking, I might die in my 30s. What?
Yeah.
Like, I was really healthy. How did this happen? And I went in a spiral. what if? So that was a very painful feeling, but that's where the wide awake comes from.
Yeah, right.
Never want to forget that feeling.
Mm.
So, it's not taking things for granted. It's looking for gratitude. It's not focusing on the negative. It's remembering, so what if things were taken from me? I didn't die.
Mm.
Like I'm still here. Is it different? Yes. But have I done everything I can to make it the best that I can make it? I have a great life. I'm very lucky, but I made my own luck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
continue to. I'm not waiting for it to happen, and I'm not focusing on, or full transparency, when I realize I've gotten stuck in a negative thought pattern, which we all do, I
Mm.
try to do the work to get out of it. I do the work to get out of it because
Mm.
I don't want to live like that.
Mhm.
No one's coming to save me. Don't know about you, but I don't want to have to experience the precious time that I have here
Mm.
in a way that doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Even if I can't control the external circumstance, I can control how I respond to it. So, that thing in my book, I never want to forget that feeling of what would I do if this was my last year? Because we don't know how long we've got. And we all know that, but we pretend like, not me. We don't look at it. Not me. I'm going to be here forever. And so is everyone I know and love.
Mm.
But that's not the reality of it, unfortunately. So that can be the most depressing thought ever, or it can be fuel.
Yeah.
Mm.
It can be fuel to make sure you say the thing. You reach out to that person that you've been thinking about connecting with. You ask someone to mentor you. You say yes to doing the program, the course. You learn more. You read the book. You do all the things, because otherwise it's so easy to do nothing.
Mm.
What happens if you do nothing? Nothing.
Yeah.
And when it's not good where you're at that moment, if you don't do anything to change it, even mentally, you get more of the same result.
Mm.
So the point of what I'm saying is we are so powerful.
Mm.
Big
And
time.
it's really hard when you feel disempowered because you can't control the circumstances, but we're so powerful, so we can change our words we're using. We can change, the cheerleader volume in our head. We can change who we connect with. We can change what we're reading. I'm off the news right now,
Same.
just for my nervous system,
Same.
I'm like, okay. But I needed someone in my corner to point out I was getting a little addicted to the news cycle.
Mm.
Is that good for you? I was like, leave me alone. But then
Yeah.
the next step was, I think you're right.
Mm.
Because, what we absorb, it affects, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, it affects our physical experience.
Yeah.
So just being really trying to be as aware as possible. And if something isn't great, change it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just for 10 seconds, just try something new. Close your phone and don't look at the news for the next 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You never know what might change, and you build on things, so it's never too late to change things. It's never too late to change your thinking. And, those little bursts of courage have created, my life now is better than my life pre-cancer.
Mm.
It happened 10 seconds at a time. And I know that people kind of like that radio interviewer, it just takes 10 seconds.
Too easy.
But the most beautiful things in my life, I can attribute back to a little burst of courage. And, one of the stories I love to tell is one of my students, he's an Irish guy named James Duffy, lives over in Ireland. He lived in Australia. And as he was moving home, he had all of these internal training concepts, these tools like 10 seconds of courage in his mind.
Mm.
And he's walking through an airport overseas, and he walked past who he describes as the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. And he walked past and he kept walking, and he heard my little voice in his mind, like I hear Sensei Benny's little voice in my mind saying, it's just 10 seconds of courage. So he about faced, he walked back over and he said, look, I don't want to bother you. Please forgive me. But I just wanted to let you know, when I saw you sitting here, I thought you were very beautiful.
Oh.
And so he had the courage and confidence. How scary is that? But he went over and he introduced himself to that lady. She was from Mexico. They were both transiting through another country back to their home countries. And that little burst of courage, he just turned around and went and said a sentence to her. They're now married. They have 2 beautiful boys,
Aw.
a daughter as well. You know, it's a little burst of courage. You do different actions. She could have shot him down, but she didn't. So he changed his whole future and her whole future. She lives in Ireland now with him through
cool.
one
That's
tiny,
cool.
tiny action. And my life's been the same, you know, that I could give you 20 stories like that. One tiny little thing completely changed my future. So that's why I'm so passionate now in my second life about, you know, I'm so lucky I got to write a book and share, you know, the potential of this little tool. And, you know, I get to go and speak to companies and organizations all the time about what you can do with a little burst of your spirit, you know, your best self coming forward in that moment. And like I said, there's no mistakes. If she had have shot James down in the airport, at least he had the courage to try. His life would be completely different now if he didn't turn around that day. Yeah. So it's the work that you do on yourself. And I want to congratulate your listeners, because in listening to your podcast and doing your programs, they're changing their own lives, even on the days it doesn't feel like it. You know, oh, I wish it would work out for me today. I want to feel better, all those things. You're in your own corner and you're not alone. You have other people in your corner. That's, in my experience, one of the most powerful things that you can do for yourself. And you never know where it's going to get you. You never know what that little thing you do today can turn into. So I think it's wild. I love what can happen. And I love that people doing good work like you guys, you know, you're in other people's corner and you're changing lives. So I'm sure people say thank you to you, but I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been
You
awesome.
too.
Such a good conversation. Got a little tear. You actually made me cry at the end. Didn't we say at the start, oh, no one's going to cry during this one? I think I cried when the man who got married to his, like, the woman in the airport. It's so cool.
Isn't it beautiful? There's so many, I've got so many stories like that. You know, it's wild what can happen. But that's why I love being someone who reminds people we are really powerful. The smallest little thought, feeling, action, words, it can have such a huge impact. And I think when you're having a physical experience that feels disempowering, it's easy to forget that. Yeah. So sometimes if we make it not about us, we make it about someone else, we can see how much ability we have to change things for other people. And then all you got to do is flip it and then aim it at yourself.
Awesome. So good. I'm going to put in the show notes a link to your book and your website so that if people want to read the book or reach out to you, they will find you.
Yeah, and if you want to get more courageous people around you to have that conversation with, you can share my TEDx talk on your social media.
Yes.
It's on YouTube,
yes, we
you know,
will,
and
for sure.
And, you know, then you can have that conversation with your friends that you might not otherwise be able to start. You know, and pass it back and forward. Well, 10 seconds of courage. Why don't you go and ask him out? Or, you know, I'm going to go for that first walk. Do you want to come? Yeah. Because courage is contagious.
So good. Thank you so much, Nadine. It's been awesome chatting.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you. If you'd like to give us extra smiles, drop us a review and spread the love by sharing this episode.
You can also rate your own state of burnout and the root cause contributors by taking our Ending Body Burnout Assessment on our website. And if you're interested in learning about our group or one-on-one Ending Body Burnout programs, shoot us a DM via Instagram or Facebook.
Have the best day ever.